So we've got some breaking news today that show how Elon Musk and Tesla are on the path to bankruptcy. I got to show you guys this is the headlines today. GM exits robotaxi market, will bring cruise operations in-house. Basically, they're getting out of robotaxis because it's just not worth it. And Tesla's full steam ahead in a business that's not worth it. This is what's going on. This is the GM CEO, Mary Barra. She says, Cruise was well on its way to a robotaxi business, but when you look at the fact you're deploying a fleet, there's a whole operations piece of doing that. Basically, theoretically, they could, develop the technology. Theoretically, it would take a whole bunch of investment, and then you'd have to have like this whole operations team, etc. And when they crunch the numbers, chances are it's just not worth the money. Now, the Tesla bulls, they'll say, guys, but GM Cruise, they're just a bunch of dummies. Don't listen to them. They don't know anything about business. Elon Musk, he knows everything about business because, guys, he's a genius. And everything that happens in the world, obviously, the Tesla bulls are always going to tell you is fantastic. But again, my read is GM's getting out because it's not profitable and not worth it.
Their V13 release, and of course, the humanoid robot. And what's starting to become obvious, and again, not financial or investment advice, what's starting to become obvious, for at least those that aren't super in the weeds with this, I believe, is that self-driving is going to happen. And it's not just going to happen, it's going to happen in a very violent way.
Teslanomics says GM just halted funding of its robotaxi development by Cruise, aka it's extremely difficult to compete against Tesla. The white flag has been thrown. Don't get it twisted. You know who led. Again, I'm not saying that Tesla won because they don't even have a robotaxi. They're claiming victory with no robotaxi. Yes, you could say they built this prototype thing, but have they given any fares? Do they have a license to have robotaxi with passengers? Are they even above level 2 autonomous driving? No, and no. That's what's up. Here's another one. Kyle Voigt. This is one of the co-founders of Cruise. It's interesting. Listen what he says. He says, in case it was unclear before, it is clear now. GM are a bunch of dummies, and that's coming from Kyle. Now, Kyle's calling GM dummies, but you got to check out the details of this stuff. This was back in January 2024. Here's the headline. Probe into GM Cruises finds poor leadership, culture issues at center of accident response. Basically, one of these cruise things hit a person, dragged him along the street. And Voigt, the guy who's calling GM a bunch of buddies, was there at the time. He ended up resigning, if you can believe that. Well, I'm sure you can believe it because I'm telling you. And this was the quote at the time. It says, from the report on the crash, this conduct has caused both regulators and the media to accuse Cruise of misleading them. The reasons for Cruise's failings in this instance are numerous: poor leadership, mistakes in judgment, lack of coordination, and an us versus them mentality with regulators, and a fundamental misapprehension of Cruise's obligations and accountability and transparency to government and the public. And it also said here that Kyle Voigt, the guy who's calling GM dummies, says the report outlines multiple instances, not just once, multiple instances in which the then CEO and co-founder Kyle Voigt, who resigned in late November, made final calls to withhold information specifically regarding media. Why am I showing you guys this? Because this is sort of how these sort of, techie moguls who are trying to say, hey guys, robotaxis are awesome, etc., they may not necessarily disclose everything, right? They may end up resigning. And I think this Kyle guy situation is sort of foreshadowing what Elon Musk may do.
Relations to be able to sell to an Amazon or a Coca-Cola or whatever. Just pick your company that could benefit tremendously from having humanoid robots in their business. Helps Tesla because they sell them, helps the business because they lower their costs, right? So it's freaking crazy. What a crazy time. Anyway, I thought this was a timely video given that Tesla stock is doing some and again, not financial or investment advice, but I do know a large part of my audience follows the story very closely.
Now, at the moment, Musk and all the fanboys and fangirls keep telling you robotaxis are awesome. But I'm saying, guys, when you look at GM, yes, you could read it at, hey, GM's just a bunch of dummies and it completely failed. But Elon's going to succeed where other car companies have failed. Understand this. Uber had like a robotaxi autonomous driving thing. They pulled out in 2020. Apple had an electric car thing and they pulled out too. They spent billions of dollars on this thing. They're just like, you know what? It's just not worth it. Other companies have been announcing as well. Again, they're slowing back EV investments because it's not worth it. The market isn't there. And even if it was, it's not profitable. And the other thing is too, guys, Waymo does exist. They're giving tons of rides. Okay, so they're trying to do it. But here's the thing. They're losing money on said venture because the car that they're using is really expensive. I think it's like 100 grand, something like that. And it's hard to put something that if you want to be safe, because I think safety does matter. To Tesla, it doesn't. That's why they're going to do it cheap. It's going to be unsafe. They're going to hurt people. They're going to get lawsuits at the wazoo. Insurance going to be nuts. Plus, they're not even on the road as is. Like, we're talking about such hypothetical nonsense. It's ludicrous. But I just want you to understand, to read this as more people are getting out, not that Elon Musk is winning. They don't have anything right now. That's why it's funny to talk about this stuff.
If Amazon replaces someone they're paying $70,000 a year for, that has bathroom breaks and HR issues and all this stuff, with a bot that's licensed for $100,000 over 5 years, Amazon's margins go through the roof, net income goes through the roof, free cash flow goes through the roof, the share price goes through the roof. And then if Tesla's the one selling them those robots, and then you have Amazon, all these, Walmart, all the big companies in the world potentially buying Optimus or some type of humanoid robotics, it's going to be a revolution that we've never seen. And that's not talking about the ones that are going to go to your house and do your laundry, right? We're not even talking about that sector of it.
This is the whole Mars catalog. He does this all the time. He says, GM just admitted Tesla's autonomy strategy is the right one. Other people say, yep, that's right. You also have this Gene Munster. He's one of the Wall Street pumpers. He says, good news for Tesla and Google. Bad news for Uber and Lyft. GM is shutting down their robotaxi efforts because they can't afford the investment and it's getting more competitive. They're getting out. It's just not worth it. It's not worth it. The amount of money that's going to take for the amount of benefit that you're going to get, it's just not worth it. That's how I read this stuff. But I understand, guys, people are going to keep pumping this stuff. But I'm illustrating these things because I want you to see what people say on social media. And remember, everyone has a motive. So in terms of GM, Gene Munster, actually he is GM, Gene Munster, he works on Wall Street. He's just trying to pump you the stock. Here's another person, George Holtz. He's trying a partnership with Elon. I mean, look at it. It says, today GM pulled funding from Cruise robotaxis. I called this 5 years ago. If you have been paying attention, self-driving has played out exactly like I said it would. Tesla will win, and Coma AI will take second with an open source solution. And that is the CEO of Coma AI. Of course it is.
And it seems like, again, not financial investment advice. It feels like this might be the beginning of the realization as it pertains to their artificial intelligence capabilities.
Is you have to understand, like, who's giving you info that's, hey, this is objectively what's happening, this is an honest opinion and stuff, and who is essentially saying, hey, I work for Tesla, or hey, I work for a competing company, or hey, I'm a Tesla stock promoter, right? These are the stuff that you'll see. This is actually a reporter, I think it's the New York Times or Wall Street Journal. I think it might be maybe Wall Street Journal. This person's named Mike Isaac, but they go by Rat King. He says, GM kills Cruise, a tacit admission that Waymo has won. Wild. Maybe, if you want to read it that way. Like I said, I don't think like this stuff is impossible. I just don't think necessarily it's profitable right now. I'm just telling you the truth. It's just not. Waymo recently made a partnership with Hyundai. I think they're going to use the Ioniq 5s. The Ioniq 5s here in Korea are very, very popular. All the taxis have them. I see them on the road all the time. And they basically, I'll just be frank with you, crush the Teslas in terms of value. But will Waymo ever be profitable? That remains to be seen. I think, like I said, the development of getting this technology to work in a way that's, actually generates profits is tough because you're always going to be driving down the prices of this stuff. This is the reality. I'm sure you guys know, if you ever take an Uber or Lyft, you just choose whatever's cheaper or whatever one's closer. I mean, but generally speaking, cheaper. I mean, I do this all the time. You look at both apps, you're like, okay, I'm gonna go with that one. And there's always gonna be competition in the space. The other issue as well is I don't think the market's as big as people say it is. And we're not even talking about the technology, right? Whether the technology is even gonna work in every city in the world, etc. And there's plenty of places that cities in USA, just talking about USA, where people have never been in a taxi in their entire life. And I'm not saying anything crazy. I grew up in Oregon and I had never been in a taxi, like basically the bulk of my life until I moved to New York City, to where like, oh my God, it's like a whole different world. And even then it was really expensive to take a taxi, just take mass transit. And so I think these sort of over bullish stuff is pretty nuts on this robotaxi thing. That's why it's all the joke from the Elon and the Tesla fanboys and fangirls. But I understand, they're there to pump up the stock. I completely get it. Take a look at this. This is a headline. Just came out in July. China's robotaxi push sparks concerns about job security for drivers. I think there'll be massive protests going forward for these kind of things from drivers. And just imagine this. Let's say, for example, in some miracle, Tesla, gets their robotaxi on the road, right? They don't even have anything on the road yet. They've never even given a ride. They've never, made any profits from said thing. Let's say by some miracle they get it on the road, and everyone knows this is Elon's MAGA mobile, right? And they're going to try to test it in markets, which would use taxis, which would be like in New York or San Francisco or in LA. How do you think local people are going to treat driverless vehicles that are MAGA mobiles? How are they going to treat it?
I want to talk about Tesla stock, which is something that I know a lot of my audience follows very closely. And of course, none of this is going to be investment or financial advice. The biggest thing that comes to mind right now is that I can't really tell if the market is valuing Tesla for what it should value Tesla, or if it's more of a, hey, looks like Elon and Trump are best friends.
The Elon Musk fanboys and fangirls are still going to pump Elon as much as they can. That's their job. Look at Farzad. He's like, Elon Musk, he's doing a survey. When's he going to be a trillionaire? Is it 2025, 2026, 2027, or 2028? But that's what Farzad does. Or you got Meet Kevin. And I guess he's kissing up to Elon these days. He's recently bought a Cybertruck. He talked about a Cybertruck nonstop. He recently, according to this, spent $10,000 to get a gold little checky marky thingy on Twitter. So if you want to do that, you totally can. Farzad also is claiming recently that he spent $10,000 to get a gold check mark on Twitter. You can't make this stuff up. Now, this is something I want to mention. You never know for sure about this stuff with these people, because a lot of this is marketing to encourage other people to spend 10 grand a year on Twitter. And in fact, it's actually even more than that. If you go just the monthly route, regular people, $8 a month or 16 for premium. I guess that's a new thing. And then if you're, want to spend more and get more exposure, it's $200 a month or $1,000 a month for the full package, right? If you want the full package from Elon. Now, understand, again, stuff you see on social media, stuff you see on Twitter, it's all about trying to get, hey, Elon's attention. Hey, look at me, Elon, look at me. And the more you kiss up to Elon, the more he'll boost you in the algorithm, etc. And it's actually not so different than how the world works in the physical world. There's been reports that Elon is going to be buying a house near Trump's house in Mars. I call it Mars-Largo because it's the Mars base, Florida. This is the headline. Palm Beach buzzing that Elon Musk wants to buy late beauty mogul Cito Miller's Lux apartment. And then right here, Elon Musk is rumored to be buying property near Trump's Mar-a-Lago. And again, this is, multiple parts of the story. Elon and Tesla are going down the wrong route. Essentially, robotaxis just aren't going to be great for them. And understand that whenever you see these crazy social media posts, it's all about trying to buy influence. Like, think about this. This is just came out headlines today. Trump says anyone investing $1 billion in US will receive expedited permits. Of course, Elon says, this is awesome. So, hey, if you're going to put a whole bunch of money in something, then Trump will say, don't worry about regulations. Don't worry about the environment. Just give us that $1 billion. Drop rockets on people's houses. Pour oil into, drinking water. Do whatever you want. We don't care. Just give us that money. And that's the point of view that a lot of people have on this kind of stuff. The robotaxi stuff for Tesla is probably never going to work. And people are just interested in pumping the stock as long as this can last. So we'll see how long the pump lasts. That's my thoughts on this thing. I think people are getting out, not going in. And Elon is kind of stuck because they don't have any new products other than this stupid robotaxi thing that will never work. So please share your thoughts on this one. And I'll catch you all in the next video.